Well, good morning. I love this fall weather, don't you? I hope you're enjoying it. I just like it when the temperature begins to drop a little bit. Maybe I need a little jacket in the morning, and particularly when the leaves start changing. It's just fall's my favorite time of year. So it's supposed to be a beautiful day today. I hope you can get outside, and if you do get outside, just enjoy your Creator. Just look at all the things He's done, enjoy the fresh air, and just give Him glory as you do that. You know, as I talk about the passage today, we're going to look at what Paul says about Christians taking other Christians to court. I hope that as you turn these on each day, that you read the passage first. We can't go and give all the details of the passage. We're not reading the passage, so it's good for you to read it first, and then you understand what we're talking about. In this passage, apparently, the Corinthian Christians were taking each other to court. Here were people who were part of the body of Jesus Christ, who were supposed to love each other, who were a family, and they are taking their disputes to court. And there's a couple observations about that. First of all, the fact that there were disputes is something that I think sometimes may catch us a little bit by surprise. Years ago, when I first began ministry, I taught in a Christian university. And part of my orientation, the dean brought me in and he kind of prepared me for something that I might not have been prepared for. And that is that though I am working with people who love Jesus and who are called to serve Him, they don't always act spiritual. The nature of us Christians is that, sometimes we can get a little selfish. We can be wrong. We can do things that are not necessarily pleasing to God. We still have to battle that battle with sin. And as a result of that, there can be disputes. And in that Christian university, there were disputes at times. In the church, there are disputes sometimes. I would say to you, don't be disillusioned by that. Understand that God's people are still people, and people will be people. And so there will sometimes be disputes. I wish it didn't have to be that way, but it is that way, and that's just something we have to adjust to. The question is, what do we do when we have a dispute? How do we handle that? Well, Matthew 18 has some information about going to that person and then taking a witness, and I think that's important. But here, Paul talks about the kind of matter that might end up in a court. And what he says is that, don't do that. And he kind of is almost incredulous that these people who know God would take their dispute to somebody who does not know God. How will a person outside the church who doesn't even know God settle right and wrong with believers? It just doesn't make sense. And he says, isn't there anyone mature enough among you to be able to judge in such matters? And I think obviously the answer was yes. There were those kind of people there. And so that's what I would say still applies today. If we have a dispute with someone, if we have a dispute with another Christian, we don't want to put it in the headlines. I actually read an article yesterday that a major Christian publisher was suing its ex-president over some copyright issues. And I looked at that and I thought, wow, that is really sad. I mean, that's not a good headline. That's not good advertisement for the cause of Christ. And so Paul basically says, don't do that. Instead, go to someone in the church and let them settle it. I would say that you could characterize that as Christian arbitration. I think there are people today that actually do that for Christians. You come in and you can settle a dispute without going to court, without getting lawyers involved, without having an incredible expense, without making the headlines of the newspaper. I mean, there's just a lot of ways that you can do that. And so I would say that I believe the Bible recommends, rather than suing someone who's a believer, it's not talking about what happens with unbelievers, but rather suing another believer, that you go to the church, you go to somebody in the church who has the wisdom to discern the case, and then you just agree to do what they say. But what happens if that doesn't work? And that really may be the key to this passage. What happens if somebody doesn't accept arbitration or won't go to arbitration? Here's what Paul says he would do. He would just suffer loss. He'd let it go. Now, I don't know about you, but it's not easy for me to let things go. I've got this part of me that cries out for justice and fairness and rightness. And so it's really hard for me to let things go. But I have to go back and understand that there's things that are more important than my rights and privileges. And the cause of Jesus is that thing. It is much more important than anything about me. And so Paul's advice is that if you have to, let it go, suffer loss. And here's what I think you'll find. that if you have to do that, somehow God will come through for you. I have seen it before. I believe that it will always happen, that God somehow will reward you for doing what he wants you to do. Well, that's it for today. I hope that you have a fantastic day. Get outside, love God, and just enjoy each other. And come worship with us on Sunday, or watch us on the video and join us for our worship time Sunday. God bless you.